Hi, welcome to Pink Lion Podcast. I'm Cindy Smuck, your host, and today I want to talk about a few different things. We'll start with the trip from Las Vegas to Omaha with my mother-in-law, where I felt Dad the entire trip. So did Mom, by the way. So it's Mother's Day weekend of 2024. Dad had already passed. I'm now in Vegas taking Mom from Las Vegas to Omaha. They were snowbirds, um, doing half the year in Las Vegas and half the year in Omaha. So now Dad passed and I need to get Mom from Vegas to Omaha, and we're leaving 2 days after Mother's Day. During that time frame over that weekend, I kept feeling Dad, and especially in the condo with Mom. It was very intense there, and he had passed in that condo. So, I'm there and he's kind of making jokes and following along, barking orders, trying to get me to pack things up more quickly or more efficiently or the way he would do it. Um, and I'm, taking boxes and packing up the car, and he's kind of like, no, you need to do it this way. Ah, damn it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, Dad, trust me, I can Tetris this. Like, I can get it all to fit. Don't worry. I got this. I'm grumbling. Fine. Mom, on the other hand, was actually feeling him too, hearing him, trying to go to sleep at night. And that's where all her communication, a lot of it would come in. So Tuesday morning, we leave right at 7 a.m., hit the road, and within 20 minutes of hitting the road, I see this light come on. It was like one of the tire pressure lights comes on, and I'm thinking, well, I better check that. There's going to be a big period of time between the Las Vegas Speedway and the next available stop for us. So I'd better check on this now so we're not stranded on the side of the road. I pull over to a gas station. The tire's 5 psi lower than all the other tires. And this was the rear passenger tire. We get back on the road. We're traveling through Vegas or through Nevada, Arizona, into Utah. We're talking the whole way. We're driving fast, kind of in and out of lanes, She's got all the sensors on her Subaru, so things are going off if we cross the lanes without hitting the blinker, and I'm hearing Dad, damn it, slow down, be careful, he's just stressing me out. I'm feeling very anxious all day long. And I don't know why. I mean, he's just kind of trying to get our attention in a very intense way, and he's participating in the conversations. And Mom is I'm asking her questions. I'm trying to keep her from feeling any kind of way. I don't know. I was just very interested in to learn more about her and her life and her experiences. So I was asking a lot of questions, and we were talking the whole way. And Dad was there kind of participating, like I said. And we're getting into Colorado. And I remember hearing this beep that I hadn't heard all day. So I look over at the dashboard, and she had been driving at this point, and I look over and I see that tire pressure light on again, which it hadn't come on all day, but I'm seeing it now. And so I'm like, Mom, hey, that tire pressure light's back on again. She goes, oh, do you think that we should, pull over and check it out? And I'm like, my Cindy brain was like, no, we only have 30 to 40 miles to go. We can make it. And then we both heard it at the same time. Better safe than sorry. And I said, hey, I just heard better safe than sorry. And she goes, I did too. So we both looked up at that moment, and right behind this huge tree on the side of the road, there was a sign for a gas station, Loveys or Loves or something. I can't remember what it is, but we pulled over. And I think it was Parachute was the city we were in. And it's just not a very big town in Colorado. And I'm going, man, it's 5:00. Like, we are so screwed if something's going on. I pull into the gas station, I get out and I look, and there is a hole about the size of a dime in the tire, and air is just coming out of that tire. Like, I had never experienced that before. And I'm thinking, oh, the F word. And I'm like, oh my God, we are so screwed. So I go Mom, do you want me, 'cause she was driving, so I was like, do you want me to park the vehicle? There's air coming out of this tire. We blew it somehow. It's like total hole in it. She's like, yeah. So I park in one of the parking spots. There's nobody around me. I go running in to see if I can get some help or try to figure out what's going on. And I come back out a couple minutes later, maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, and there's this guy who's parked next to us in a utility truck. And I go sit in the vehicle. The tire's completely flat at this point. I'm thinking, oh my God, we could have been, in a very serious accident, potentially like much worse than that. And no wonder Dad's been screaming at us all day to slow down and be careful and all this other stuff and all this anxiety. And I'm going, holy moly, like how that all worked was just kind of like really incredible. But basically, we're still in emergency mode because we still had to get to our hotel. We're in the middle of nowhere, basically. And so I'm just like, how do I do this? I've never changed a spare tire before. I'm totally screwed. But we do have YouTube and desire. So you combine the two, you're going to get it done. But I was trying to call for help to try and get an actual tire because I'm like, I can't get to Nebraska on a donut. There's no way. So as I'm trying to call people, there's a kind of a guy hovering around the driver's side door. Mom had gone in to go to the bathroom, and I actually open up the door and I'm like, hey, can I help you? And he's like, actually, I noticed that you ladies have a flat tire. I've got a truck here full of tools. Did you need some help changing your spare? I'm like, wow, really? The right person at the right time parked right next to us. Like, what are the odds of that happening? So I'm sitting there in awe and I'm thinking, yeah, I could really use some help. That'd be really kind of you. Thank you so much. And I start piling everything out of the car so we can get to the spare. The guy gets going to work. Mom comes back and she's like, wow, what's going on? I'm like, this guy had a truck full of tools. He's going to help us change a spare. She's like, oh, wow. Do you think we should give him some money? That's what Dad would do. And I go, yeah, we should. And she pulls money out and she's like, do you think $70 is enough? And I'm thinking, and all of a sudden I hear 80. So I go, well, Dad thinks 80. So I'm going to go in and get some money out of the ATM. Will you stay with the guy? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So I went in, got the money, came back out. He's finishing up and we thank him and go to pay him the $80 for helping us. And he's like, oh, no, 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 you don't need to help. You don't need to pay, me. I was just happy to help. And we're like, no, 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 we really insist. You really helped us out and we really appreciate it. It would have cost us a lot more money had somebody had to come out here for an emergency in the evening. And he's like, yeah, I really appreciate it. And I go to give him the 80 and he takes 40 back and he hands it back to me. And I go, no, 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 we want you to have this. And he's like, wow, thank you so much. I actually was down to my last $7 until payday on Friday. This was Tuesday. And I thought to myself, wow, this guy needed us just as much as we needed him. No wonder why Dad wanted to give him just that little bit extra. And so we got in the car, laughed all the way to the hotel. We could not believe it. This angel out of nowhere just kind of appeared to help us in crisis. And these things we thought, oh, they're coincidences. Mom with more spiritual experience than me. I had none. She's telling me like, oh no, this is not a coincidence. This is Dad. And he is helping us along this trip, along this route. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So I get to Omaha. Well, there's a few other things. All four of her tires wound up being bad, by the way, when we got to the tire station the next morning. Her and Dad were supposed to replace them when they got to Vegas a year and a half before. So they were all cracked and weather beaten, and they were supposed to replace them then, but they didn't because Dad got sick. And so they'd forgotten. Obviously it's not top of mind. So we replaced all four tires and then things got quiet. until Mom did 93 once we crossed the Nebraska state line from Colorado to Nebraska. She started doing 93. She was like so happy to be home. And Dad was like, slow down. Ah, damn it. Slow down. And we laughed about that. We finally got back to Omaha, and I'm still like wrestling with what was happening to me. I felt good about it, but I wasn't totally sure. I still needed all this validation because my rational brain was still wrestling with, is this real? Is this not? Is this made up? Am I, what's happening? I didn't really understand. And so I went to go see a medium on the suggestion of my sister-in-law, and she and my brother-in-law, and they felt that, hey, go see her and see what happens. And I did. That whole situation was interesting, how that all kind of happened and fell together too in the time frame that I was there, because she's normally really busy, and she wound up having a cancellation and squeezed me in. So when I got there, she's going through the process. And within the first 10 minutes, she said to me, "Did your mother-in-law go on a really long trip? I'm talking a really long road trip. I feel like I'm driving for a while." And I was like, wow, we had just gotten in from Las Vegas the day before. And so I told her, and she's like, wow. She's like, yeah, because I feel like she was on this long trip, and I want to say there was a man with you guys too. And that's when Dad started to come in. And she wouldn't have known that. She only had my name and my phone number because I text her for the appointment. That was it, my first name and my phone number, nothing else. There was a few other things that happened during that particular reading, but for the sake of this podcast, I'll wrap this up. But essentially, that's when I started to kind of believe that these things were happening to me at a level I didn't really quite grasp or have my whole head around, but I knew it was a real situation. And I feel like at that time, when I came back to California and I came home and I shared my experience with my husband and the kids, the girls, he and his daughter, my stepdaughter, I'll call her my daughter because that's what she is to me. They were more skeptical. Well, the other two children were not at all. They were totally bought in and completely in agreement with me that I was having this experience, that these things were real. They were believers, more off the bat. So during that time, it was just a little bit wonky. And so that period, and before we left to go in July, so I'm getting home at the end of May, beginning of June, and before we left in July to go back to Omaha for the celebration of life, that 5 weeks or so, 5 to 6 weeks in there, that was a really tough time for me, because that time frame, I was very confused on what was happening. I didn't know where to find information to help me figure things out. And I had to do a lot of Google searches and YouTube channels and different things, trying to read different books and audiobooks. And I just devoured information so that I could maybe relate or maybe understand what was going on with me. And it was, I think, during that period where I came across Laura Lynn Jackson's book, Signs, and I read that. So I kind of put that to the test, right? With the penny, and then the 1979 penny, and then the pink line, and then the blue softball, and 920. It's no coincidence I'm getting ready to drop this podcast, on 920. So essentially, right around 920, I guess I'm getting the nudge and the kick in the pants to get it going. You got the book up, you got to get the podcast going. So that's been coming through a lot, not just to me, but through other mediums I work with that are telling me these things. And they wouldn't know. They didn't even know I wrote a book. So anyway, we've got all this information kind of coming in. I'm collecting all of it. In the meantime, my body is physically going through things. I am feeling like at certain points around certain people, I'm feeling like I'm anxious or my heart is kind of jumping out of my body. Um, I'm feeling tingling going on all the way over. Like I get like an internal chill or an internal vibration that just kind of works through my whole body. Sometimes I'm feeling overly anxious. Thoughts are coming in. I'm not sure what's kind of going on, but my body is reacting before my mind can catch up. And I'm very confused at the time on like what's happening. But what I will say is what I experienced is anytime spirit was near, I had a physical reaction to that. I would feel it in my body. And that was just getting used to the energy. Now that I'm used to it, I don't have those responses so much anymore. I have different, sometimes I do get symptoms, but it's not as prevalent as it was when I was first awakening and this was first happening. Um, so that's what I experienced through that particular point in time. What I have since come to understand and why I'm going through this with you is because when I sat down to write this book and I started to chronologically write things out and how I first became aware of things, I had this thought about situations that occurred in this house that we used to live in when I was younger, where we experienced what I'll call ghosts, because my brain at 12 could not quite understand what I was seeing and what I was experiencing. And so that's what we'll call it for the sake of, the general population of their understanding of these things too. And I will tell you, it even started before that. Um, when I was younger, I mean, my mom and my dad, we grew up in a small town, Moore Park, California. Um, My dad was a Vietnam War vet, and he had PTSD. And back then, in the 70s and 80s, he didn't really, I mean, it wasn't talked about very much. And a lot of these veterans had to come back and deal with this stuff, and there was no real system set up in place for them or for their families. So, not that I'm excusing what my dad did, but I'm just saying that the next thing that he did do is he took it out on us, and that is how he processed his pain. And so, we had been physically hurt, and emotionally hurt too, but a lot of it was physical with my biological father. And so, during that time, there were certain instances, and I remember very specifically a few of them. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for him to take us and line us up on the edge of the bed and beat us with belts. But one day we were getting ready to go to the beach, and he took my mother by the hair, and he and she were arguing, and he would grab her by the hair and drag her, like take her head and bang it from one side of the wall to the other up and down the hallway. And he hurt her as well, and us kids too, older kids. Wasn't every day, but it was more prevalent when he would drink. And I remember taking my brother was in his room, me and my sister, we were in our room, and I was behind the door, and I like held her close to me, and she was crying, and I was trying to keep her quiet and trying to be strong, and I was worried about my other sister who was just a baby out in the kitchen, and in order to get to her, I'd have to like go through the hallway and deal with the war that was going on there. And I did not want to do that. So I just stayed put and protected the one that I could at the time. I was pretty young, maybe 7, 8, I don't remember, something. It was young, somewhere in that time frame. And I think because I had to dance around his moods a lot, I learned how to read energy. And I know that a lot of you have too. A lot of you have had these type of traumatic experiences, and you learn to read the room when you walk into it. In fact, the whole saying, like read the room, is based on your own intuition and your own ability to read energy, especially you can tell when something is off. That's an instinct. That's a natural, they call it primal instinct, but that's also your ability to intuitively feel somebody else's energy. And I realized that as I'm writing this book that, oh my gosh, this started way back when I was younger and I just didn't even kind of put it together. The other traumas that you kind of go through in your life, and I've had a few, not just me, but my siblings and I too, um, they have caused us to work through or to deal with those traumas in certain ways and how we repair ourselves. We kind of pick ourselves up off the ground and repair. It helps in the healing process. So, as I worked through some of those things, this is what I believe caused or allowed dad, when he passed, to reach me in a way. So, I don't feel like I just suddenly, boom, became a medium. I feel like I had been preparing my whole life for that moment. And it was an opening of a door. And I walked through it unafraid. Um, and it welcomed me as a remembrance to who I am and where I'm from, or where we're all from and where we come from. Um, and I feel like if everyone identifies, because I know that there are so many people that have had these experiences and that can connect that way. And you realize we're all part of this bigger thing. Mm, Maybe not only can we connect with those who we love who have passed, we can connect with each other on a very intuitive level. And so that I'll leave you with today, just to kind of, as you're getting to know me and know my story, where the origin started and how we can kind of move forward with this mediumship thing, because it's like, I don't want to jump into the platform. It's like, hi, I'm a medium and blah, 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 blah. No, there's a reason. Everything happened for a reason. I just didn't wake up one day and here it was. I'm not trying to scam anyone or do anything. This has been an unfolding, a process my whole life that led up to this particular moment a year and a half ago that lifted a veil that I had not observed or seen my whole life. So, I mean, or connected any of it. But once I did, it's not something I can unsee. It's not something I can close a door on. It's going to happen. So, just last night, my husband and I were sitting on the couch watching the game. And there was the Bills and Dolphins game, and he was talking to me about an experience he had with a coworker, and as he's talking, he's telling me two things. One, she had a sister who passed last year, and she'd given her eulogy at that thing. All of a sudden, boom, I've got the sister there, and she's talking. So I'm like writing all this information down, and I gave it to him to give to her to validate. Okay, this is how my life goes now. The other thing is he's like, "Oh, I feel like the Dolphins are gonna win." They was like 21-21 in the game, and we're like in the fourth quarter. I gotta go to bed. I'm tired. I get up pretty early in the morning, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think the Dolphins are gonna win. I feel very strongly that the Bills are gonna win." I walked upstairs, and the game had already been over by that point. It's just he was watching it from behind, so I went and I looked, and I'm like, "Yep, I'm right." Okay, there we go again. It's just because I'm listening to that inner voice of the knowing that I have, the things that have gone on this past year and a half. And I feel like if we all just start tuning into them, we're gonna we're all gonna be in a better place, and this world's gonna be a much better place. Anyway, if you're interested in what I have to say and this speaks to you in any way, hey, subscribe or share or follow or whatever it is on whatever platform I've got going on. I'm trying to reach as many people as possible, but that would be great. And I will try and get one of these or two of these out each week. And again, I will have guests, but I want to lay out the story first so that you guys can get to know me before I start inviting people in. So there'll be about, 4 or 5 episodes where it's just me. And then I'll start bringing in guests. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day, you guys. Take care. Bye.